Let's get this out of the way. The Marvel Comics depiction of Hel, known as Hela in the Thor movies and through this post for ease of use, has fuck all to do with the half-giant/goddess Hel in the Norse mythology. So go ahead and get Cate Blanchett's emo cougar depiction of her out of your head. A more appropriate image would be if Wednesday Addams grew up, got kicked out of the house by her grandpa, and became the CEO of Marriott Hotel's Afterlife division. Get in, nerd. We're going for a boat ride. Origins of the ruler of Hel. While riding around in Jotunheim, likely looking for hemorrhoid cream after being fucked in the ass by a horse, Loki, I'm serious bro, that's an actual story, look it up, made a stop by a forest called Ironwood. Here he met a sexy little redhead named Angerboda. This would be just a beautiful story of Loki getting his dick wet in some ginger giant pussy, but there are a few issues with this encounter. 1. Loki is married. But Loki already had his prenup signed, so who cares about that, am I right? More importantly, Angerboda's name translates into stuff like she who offers sorrow, or the one who brings grief. At the least, one would expect a girl with a name like that to give you an STD or to shit on your bed. Anyway, Loki smashes Angerboda, and after some time, Angerboda pops 3 beautiful babies out of her coochie: a wolf, Fenrir, a snake, Jormungandr, and our lovely half-dead-looking emo chick, Hela. No, seriously, half of Hela looks like a dead body. Her body is described as half flesh-coloured and the other half blue or black, similar to the look of a corpse. Eventually, Odin and the crew received word that Loki was chilling out in Jotunheim with his side piece. Upon hearing that Loki was making a goddamn forest come out of Angerboda's pussy, Odin may have initially been cool with it, seeing as Loki gave birth to his favourite horse after getting fucked in the arse. Lulz. Whoever came up with that story was slamming mushrooms for sure. He probably figured he might get another horse or maybe a cool chipmunk, I don't know. Unfortunately, someone pointed out to Odin that these new bastards of Loki were foretold in the old Asgard book of prophecy they have sitting by the royal toilet. The warning went something like this. Once the gods found that these 3 children are being brought up in the land of Jotunheimer, and when the gods traced prophecies that from these siblings great mischief and disaster would arise for them, then the gods expected a lot of trouble from the 3 children, partially due to the nature of the mother of the children, yet worse so due to the nature of their father. That sounds pretty bad, but note that it doesn't say Ragnarok will happen because of these kids. It just implies they will be 3 pain-in-the-ass kids, and even then it's pretty vague to what degree that would have been. Great mischief could mean Fenrir refuses to be house-trained and shits the floor 5 times a day for the lulz. I'm going to say it as I see it, and we all know it, even if you're in denial of the truth. Loki is a shithead. Angerboda doesn't have a lot of lore out there, but I'm going to go with the birds of a feather thought process and say she was probably a total psycho. Besides, she's popping snakes, wolves and zombie chicks out of her pussy. There's no way she's a broad you take home to mum unless you want your house burned down. However, the kids were still new to the world. So many of these prophecies the Aesir fear so much might be avoidable if they just weren't complete dicks to each other or just outright killing the problem. I don't want to hear about blood oaths between Odin and Loki or other horse shit. They let that fucker get way too many free passes, and he just comes back to fuck 'em in the ass every time. The gods are fucking morons. But that's a story for another time. But perhaps another approach could happen with Loki's children. Odin could have gone with the soft approach, taken them in as family, tried to raise them right, and maybe, just maybe, they would have liked to go to Grandpa Odin's house for the weekend and slam down some beer and sausages. Then, as a precaution, assign some god to monitor them, and the second they go wrong, crack their heads wide open. It's a reasonable approach, but being reasonable is for pussy-ass bitch boys, and Odin ain't nobody's bitch. So Odin put on his football jersey, snatched Loki's kids up by the neck, and started yeeting those little freaks right the fuck out of Asgard. He tossed Jormungandr into the farthest part of the ocean he could reach, because fuck snakes, that's why. Fenrir. You'd think he'd just kill him right there, but maybe he was just too cute of a puppy to kill. I've heard that they said Asgard was too holy to murder him there, to which I'll say, none of those smooth-brain bastards thought that maybe they could just take him somewhere less holy and kill him. Again, the gods are morons. Well, that comes back to bite him in the ass later. And then Odin looked at our girl, Hela. Now, of all the children, I think he gave a slight pity pause for her. I mean, the girl had some lousy skin, but maybe some Cetaphil, exfoliating cream and a good moisturizer could have fixed that. Then he remembered he had a lot of souls in Hell, apparently a section of the Niflheim realm, that didn't make the cut for Valhalla. So he offered her a job as the ruler of the Underworld. Hela declined the offer, not wanting to work night shifts, but Odin didn't give a shit and tossed her ass down to the Underworld anyway. He did offer an excellent insurance package, stock in the company, and a BMW though, so it wasn't all bad. I say she made out pretty well compared to her siblings. After bouncing off the ground like a skipping stone across water upon landing in Niflheim, Hela took stock of her surroundings, and instead of bitching about her lot, she embraced it. No one else wanted to manage the souls of the old, diseased, dishonored, or just dull people that didn't die in cool Viking ways. She was the boss bitch over the dead of all the realms. She also got to live in a sweet fucking mansion with high walls and ain't need no man to pay her bills. So she hopped in the M3, put WAP on the MP3 player, burst through the gates, and started whipping the Helheim hotel staff into shape. Hela's great hall was called Eljudnir, means sprayed with snowstorms, fun place, and she ate from a plate called Hunger using a knife called Famine. Her prominent servants were Ganglati and Ganglot, which allegedly translates to lazy walker. I guess they moved real slow. I don't know. You have to remember Hela is basically Wednesday Addams, so she will be hella dramatic about naming her stuff. Also, being a strong, independent woman, she had to maintain a resting bitch face at all times in public, as she's noted for appearing rather downcast and fierce-looking. I can only imagine she gained that description because people don't like the idea of dying. But Hela doesn't give two flying fucks about your opinion on the matter. If you didn't make the cut to get into Valhalla, then your bitch ass is hers, and you can cry while eating 5 bags of dicks on your way to hell. Now let's talk about the death of Baldur, as Hela plays a role in it. Depending on what you think of the Norse myths, the death of Baldur may or may not have happened yet. I like to think all the gods are chilling in their alternate dimensions playing PlayStation, and they just take turns running the multiverse in between orgies and stuff. Humans probably take them way more seriously than they take humans or themselves, because humans are also morons. You've probably realized that Hela is not the high-action goth cougar you remember watching in Thor Ragnarok. She provides shelter for the dead, hosts some parties, and occasionally fucks people up for not following her rules. She's basically a food and beverage manager at a Florida golf resort. By the way, rich people pay $20,000 a year just to be on the waiting list to get in. According to my sources, that cost is on the low end. Man, I wish I could dump $20,000 like it's $2. I'm so poor. I bring up Baldur because this is the only surviving myth where she's a star of the show. I'm not going to go deep into the story since that's content for another day, but just know that Baldur was the bro of brothers. Men loved him. Women wanted to drown him in their vaginas. He was just awesome to everyone, except Loki. But of course Loki is a fucking hater, so no shit. Everyone loved Baldur so much that the gods went around and asked everything in existence to promise to never hurt him so he would never die. Everything agreed to this. So if you threw a spear at him, it would miss. If you dropped a rock on his head, it would blow up before touching him. Nothing wanted to harm the guy. But the gods left one thing out. They forgot to ask the tiny little plant mistletoe. Since it was never asked, it never agreed to not harm him. Loki eventually found this out and had an arrow or a dart fashioned from the mistletoe. One day the gods played their favorite game of throwing shit at Baldur, and Loki had a blind god toss the mistletoe dart at Baldur, leading to the god's death. Everyone was so distraught over his death that they asked an emissary named Hermod to take the long trip through Niflheim to Hell to ask for Baldur to return to the land of the living. When Hermod arrived, he told her how sad everyone was that he was dead and begged her to let him come back. He was going all in trying to get Baldur back. He may have even tapped that ass a few times because Hela ain't had that hardcore dick in a while. But she would not budge. Baldur was just too pretty to let go. He was fun, helped organize MMA fight night events, and was great to have around during the constant bar fights Hela enjoys. But she told Hermod that she'll let him return on one condition. Every last thing in the universe had to weep for him. It was an impossible task, but the gods nearly pulled it off, except for one cunt giantess who told them, "I'm glad that bitch is dead, Suck these nuts and fuck off hoes. It is assumed that this was Loki in disguise, because of course it would be. Thus Balder was to stay in hell until the end of time, but it was all good for him. Remember, Christians think that hell is a place of fire and pain, but to the Norse it's just an afterlife. They party, drink, do magic, and chill out as they did in the living realm. So Balder wasn't mad at all. Assuming hell upgrades over the centuries, he's probably down there riding a Lamborghini around the domain while Hela is cruising on her Harley. I like to think that myths are not static and evolve over time. It lets them live on. That means Thor could be one of your co-workers just taking a break to chill out with humans. Zeus is Johnny Depp, and Hera is Amber Heard trying to get him again. I'm actually Khorne passing the time playing World of Warcraft while starting a war in another galaxy far, far away. Blood for the blood god. That's all for our girl Hela. Most people will go to her when they die, if the Norse lore is real, so it's good for you to be familiar with her. It's not my intent to give an overly accurate description to people who are probably listening to this while on the toilet, but it should be enough for you to go out and learn more if you wish. So share it if you enjoyed it and come back for more later. I'll catch you next time.